In this video, we're going to talk about how to share the eKyro Smart Garage Door Opener. There's lots of different reasons to share the garage door opener, and because of that, there's a couple different methods that can be used to share the garage door opener. This could be something that you want just shared short term. You might want the other person that you're sharing it with to have a lot of rights or not have any rights at all when it comes to your smart home. So because of that, we're going to go through a couple different sharing scenarios. The first one being just simply sharing your login credentials. The second one being sharing an individual device. And the third one being sharing your entire home. Now, when you're doing these different sharing methods outside of the credentials, you do have different levels of permissions, and we'll walk through those as well. So in the first example, we're going to talk about how to share just your credentials. On the left, you can see that we have the device that has the garage doors in it, and on the right hand side, you can see the device that we want to share those with. So in this case, if you wanted to share these, you would simply select login on the right device, the device that you're sharing it to. You would input the same credentials as the original device used, and that would allow the secondary device to basically log into the same account as the primary device. Now, there's some cons to this. I mean, obviously it's the easiest thing to do. You can just simply log into the second device, but the problem with it is that it's least secure. So what that means is that the secondary device and the primary device both have full control and full sharing capabilities, full deleting or removing capabilities of that eKyro Smart Garage Door Opener or any other devices that are in your smart home. So because of that, this isn't necessarily a recommended option, even though it is an option nonetheless. So if somebody was to go with this option, once you get logged in, you're going to see that both of the windows are going to look pretty much the exact same. And that's because they're both logged into the exact same account. Now again, I do want to stress that this is not a secure way of doing things. If you're doing it this way, you could easily have your account compromised by the other person, so you really want to make sure that you trust the other person if you're using this method. That's the first method of sharing, and it's just sharing your Smart Life credentials with that second device. The next sharing method that we're going to look at is sharing the device individually. A couple notes about this is that you can share devices just one at a time. If you wanted to share multiple devices, you're going to have to perform this multiple times in a row. Not a big deal, but it does have a couple limitations. One of those is that the shared account, the person that you're sharing it to, does have to have their own Smart Life account, a separate Smart Life account, and it doesn't offer quite as much permission sharing. The other thing to note is that this method does not work if the individual that it's being shared to wants to use Siri control. If you want to use Siri on both devices or any of the shared devices, you're going to have to do the whole home sharing, which we'll talk about a little bit after this. So let's get into it. First, like I said, is that this secondary user would have to have their own individual account. So because of that, I would select sign up if I needed to create an account, a secondary account, or I could just hit login if the second user had their own secondary account set up or they had their own account set up, and that's what I'll do here. So now you can see that I am logged in as that second user. I don't have any devices, and that's because I haven't set up any devices. Those devices are going to be shared with me from that primary device. So the primary device, the device that has the eKyro openers on it, is the one that's going to initiate the sharing. And in this example, I am going to share the opener test G. So what I would do is I would click into garage door test G or whatever garage door you were sharing. I would select the pencil icon in the top right hand corner. I would select share device, and I would select add sharing. Now there's a couple options. One of the easiest ones is going to be just to simply hit messages. So if you hit messages on this device, what it's going to enable you to do is simply to type in the phone number of the person that you want to send it to, and it will send them a link. From that link, then they can turn around and they can easily add that device. If you did it this way, the person that you shared it with would just have to select the link, and then they would automatically have that device that you shared with them show up within their optional devices. The way that I'm going to do it in this example is I'm going to share with the account Smart Life. All you need to do is enter in the account of the person that you want to share it with. If the other individual isn't sure what their account is, they can easily find that by selecting me in the bottom right hand corner, selecting the gear icon on the top right, and then selecting account and security. There they'll be able to see their mobile number if they use that, or their email address if they use that. They should be able to use either of them as long as they say linked. Okay, so I'll go back to my home screen on this right device. I have the email address of the device that I am trying to share it with. I'll select done. And you can see almost instantaneously the sharing shows up on the right device. Here you can see that it says device is shared with me, and you can see garage door test G. That is the one that I shared. So I can check it by going into it. I can select the open or close button, and I should be able to get all the alerts. I should be able to see the settings for that device. I basically have all the primary control and notification functions as the original user. There are limitations. I can't share it with other people. There's other things that I can't do, and one of those things is Siri. Let's just say that I wanted to remove this user from having control or having the device shared with them. I simply need to go to Shared Device. I would swipe over, and here you can see that it reveals the delete button, which would remove this device from the Shared With Me option on the secondary device. On the secondary device, if I wanted to remove the device that was shared with me, I would select into it. I would select the pencil icon, and you can see there that there's a remove sharing option. Both of those methods are going to remove that eKyro Smart Garage Door Opener from that secondary device. So I'm going to go ahead and do that from the primary device. I'll select delete, I'll confirm, and you're going to see that the device was removed from the secondary device. So that was the primary device sharing. Now, like I said, if you do want to use Siri, it's not going to work with this method of sharing. If you'd like to use Siri on both devices, what you need to do is you need to share it with the method of the entire home sharing. So here you can see that on the top I have this option that says Test Home. If I don't have that option, I can simply go to Me, and I can select Home Management. So basically, when you create a Smart Life account, it creates a home for you, and it just calls it home. And what you can do is you can leverage that home to share the entire home with somebody, so that all the devices you add to that home in the future would be able to be shared with that person. It also does allow you, if you have multiple homes or multiple locations, you could manage different homes through the Smart Life application. The one that I'm using is called Test Home. If you don't have any homes in there, you can just simply hit create a home, and that would create a home for you to put your devices into. But typically you're going to see this home option as the option that you'd like. In this example, I'll use Test Home. You can see that you have home members, and if you just started your home and you're the only person in there, you will be the only individual and you'll be the homeowner. But what you can do is you can add members, as it shows here. You can select add member, and then you have a few options. Like we said before, you can use the messages option, which seems to work okay when you're doing home sharing, but you can also copy. You have additional options, so if you wanted to copy and paste it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add the app account method. It's the small Smart Life icon, and this basically gives me the same options as it did before when I was sharing the device, but this is going to be sharing the entire home. So the first thing it's going to ask me is for a name, and this is the individual or the device name that you'd like it to be named to. I'm going to name that test user. Region, I'll leave it United States, and then the account will be that account phone number or email, the same one that we used previously. And like we said before, that can be found by going to Me on the secondary device, hitting the gear icon on the top right, selecting account and security, and then you have mobile number and or email address depending on what was used. And you can click on those to reveal the mobile number or the email address so that you can type them in to the other device. So in this case, I'll type in my secondary user's account. And then below that, you can see that there is a option for family role. So you have two options here. You have common member and administrator. The administrator has a lot more control, and if you want that person to use Siri with this device, they are going to have to be an administrator. There are some limitations to the administrator. They can't delete the owner account, but they really can control those devices in a lot more ways than just a common member. So in this case, I'm going to make this individual an administrator, and that is something that you can change pretty easily later on if you'd like to. I will select save, and once it finds that individual, it will add them. Now, one of the things that you'll notice that it says is test user, it is waiting to join. and it shows the permission level that I have set, and you can also see on that account that I have a confirmation waiting. It says you are invited to join the home name, and then it asks if you'd like to accept that. In this case, I will hit accept, and what you'll see is that now on the top left I have the drop down option of test home. If I select that, I can see that I have the homes that are created. In this case, I have my home and test home. I could also manage those if I'd like by selecting home management. And I have the devices that I would expect to have in there from the original home. Now on the left hand side, you can see that I have test user. I can change the family role. Right now it is at administrator, or I could also change the name from here as well. I could also, if I would like to, remove that member, and that would allow me to have full control over having members maybe temporarily, short term, whatever the case is. If somebody was visiting for a little while, you could share with that person or individual temporarily and then revoke that access later on after they're no longer there. So this does give you a lot of control from the whole home side. The other thing to notice is that, let's just say that I remove a device here. In this example, I will remove test D, and there's a couple ways to do that. One of them is to press and hold on that device, and you can remove the device that way. And you can see now on both devices they were removed. So this is a brief example of how you can do a few different sharing methods and how you can kind of control that sharing if you do perform one of the different sharing methods. The 3 sharing methods that we looked at were sharing just your Smart Life credentials, which is the least secure but probably the easiest, and only really something that you want to do with people that you really trust, because that person has complete and total ownership of your Smart Life account also. The second method that we looked at was sharing the device individually, and that gives you quite a bit of control to get alerts and to see the device and control the device, but doesn't really allow you to add it to Siri if that's something that you're trying to do. And the last method that we looked at was sharing your entire home, which is a great option if you just want to share all the devices that you have currently and any that you might add in the future with that other individual. It also allows all the involved parties to add it to Siri if they have an iPhone, and is a pretty great option if you just want to share all of your